Mr. Gillespie was only a lad himself. He'd removed his hat in an attempt at fine manners. Rainwater rolled off his pomaded hair like oiled glass. "Thank you, Mr. Gillespie," she said softly. "The sergeant would have been pleased to hear it." She wasn't certain the sergeant had ever spoken to the man, but if he could be here now, he'd be far from pleased. Oh, the upbraiding he'd delivered to one of his constables for attending a burial rather than attending his duties. She could almost hear that barrel-chested bark. It almost made her smile. Still, the lad was the only one who'd come to pay his respects. Sabella, at least, was grateful. The sergeant's gruff manner hadn't won him many friends. The constable departed. The downpour heaved, pounding her umbrella so loudly that she couldn't hear her own thoughts. So much the better. Her head wasn't a pleasant place to be. Rivulets turned the mounded soil into mud, spattering the stone marker she'd purchased. Eventually, the mound would flatten, she told herself. The stone would weather and stain. Given enough rain, enough time, his marker would match the other two bearing his name. Monroe. She glanced over her shoulder at the couple she'd hired to help her transport Sergeant Monroe from Edinburgh to Inverness. The McCabes were rosy-cheeked and ruddy, small but sturdy. Kindness poured from them like the sweetest honey. Indeed, the instant they caught her looking in their direction, they tilted their heads sympathetically and rushed forward in unison. "Let me hold that umbrella for you, Miss Lockhart," said Mr. McCabe. "Aye, dearie," Mrs. McCabe seconded. "Mustn't dirty your hems while paying your respects." Sabella handed him the umbrella and smiled her thanks. She'd managed to keep the lavender Gros de Naples spotless all morning, thanks to the McCabes. Such good-hearted people. Carefully gathering her skirts, she laid her rose atop the mound. "You're home, Sergeant," she murmured, resting her hand upon the gravestone which, along with their passage from Edinburgh, had swallowed a quarter of her remaining funds.